Alpha Kaelen, do you accept Isolde as your chosen Luna? Before Kaelen could answer, the giant doors to the grand hall suddenly burst open. Cold wind swept violently through the ceremony. Kaelen's wolf reacted instantly, violently. Every muscle in his body locked as a familiar scent crashed into him. Then he turned toward the entrance and saw her, Selene. She walked slowly into the hall beneath hundreds of shocked stares before stopping beneath the silver doors. The entire pack fell silent. Nobody expected the woman Kaelen publicly rejected to return to Moonvale Palace. But that wasn't what truly shattered the ceremony. It was the sight of her trembling hand resting protectively against the swollen curve beneath her dark cloak. Pregnant. Whispers exploded immediately. Selene came back. After the rejection? Wait, is that the Alpha's child? Kaelen stopped hearing the crowd. His eyes locked onto Selene's stomach. His wolf roared possessively inside him. Mine. Fear entered Kaelen's face for the first time in years. Beside him, Isolde's smile disappeared instantly. Kaelen, she whispered carefully. But Kaelen couldn't look away from Selene. She looked exhausted. Not weak. Exhausted. Like someone who had survived too much pain alone. Selene forced herself to stand straight despite the ache spreading through her body. Seeing Kaelen standing beside another woman hurt more than she expected. Months ago, he shattered her heart before the entire pack. Now he stood ready to make another woman his Luna. The sight nearly destroyed her. But she refused to cry in front of him again. Not after everything. The elder cleared his throat nervously. Alpha, should we continue the ceremony? Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Kaelen slowly stepped away from the altar. The movement sent tension crashing through the hall. Isolde immediately grabbed his arm. What are you doing? She whispered sharply. Kaelen pulled away without answering. His eyes never left Selene. Every instinct inside him screamed at him to go to her. To touch her. To protect her. To demand answers. He stopped directly in front of her. The silence between them felt unbearable. Finally, his voice came out rough. Whose child is that? The question sliced through Selene's chest. A bitter laugh almost escaped her lips. After everything he had done, now he wanted answers? Selene slowly lifted her eyes toward him. Does it matter now? Kaelen's jaw tightened instantly. His wolf was already losing control. Because deep inside himself, he already knew the truth. The scent. The instinct. The bond. That child was his heir. Pain suddenly twisted through Selene's stomach. A sharp gasp escaped her lips. Her knees nearly buckled beneath her. Kaelen caught her instantly before she hit the floor. The entire hall erupted into chaos. Selene. Her trembling fingers grabbed Kaelen's robe tightly as another wave of pain tore through her body. Fear filled her eyes for the first time. Then she whispered weakly, "The baby, something's wrong." Kaelen's entire body went cold. "What do you mean?" he demanded. Selene struggled to breathe through the pain. Another sharp wave hit her. Kaelen immediately pulled her closer. Panic spread through the hall. Servants rushed forward. The elders exchanged nervous glances. And Isolde stood frozen beside the altar while humiliation burned inside her chest. Selene weakly grabbed Kaelen's arm. "I shouldn't have come," she whispered painfully. Kaelen tightened his hold around her immediately. "Stay awake." Another painful cry escaped Selene's lips. Kaelen's wolf nearly tore free from him. Fear gripped him harder than any battle ever had. Because suddenly, nothing mattered except her. Then Selene whispered weakly again, "Please, don't let anything happen to my baby." The words shattered him. My baby, not ours. Before Kaelen could speak, Selene's body suddenly went limp in his arms. Selene. The entire hall exploded into chaos. And everything changed. 6 months earlier, Selene laughed softly as Kaelen pulled her deeper into the hidden garden behind the palace. "If the elders discover you sneaking away from another council meeting because of me, they'll lose their minds," she whispered. Kaelen smirked without slowing down. "Let them." Moonlight spilled across the garden as he finally stopped beside the fountain. For a moment, he simply stared at her. Selene noticed immediately. "What?" Kaelen stepped closer slowly. "You're beautiful." Selene rolled her eyes despite the blush spreading across her face. "You say that every time you see me." "Because it's true every time I see you." Her smile softened instantly. Kaelen only spoke to her like this when they were alone. Around the pack, Alpha Kaelen was feared. Cold. Powerful. Untouchable. But around Selene, he became someone else entirely. Softer. Warmer. Human. Kaelen brushed his fingers gently against her cheek. You avoided me all day. Selene sighed quietly. I was working. You mean hiding? Her expression faltered slightly. Kaelen noticed immediately. His smile disappeared. What happened? Selene hesitated, then finally whispered. The elder women were talking again. Kaelen's jaw tightened instantly. What did they say this time? Selene looked away. That a servant girl has no place beside the alpha. Rage flashed across Kaelen's face immediately. I'm going to speak to them. No. Selene grabbed his hand quickly. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Her eyes softened painfully. That's the problem. Kaelen frowned. What does that mean? Selene hesitated before answering quietly. You're the alpha of Moonvale Pack. One day you'll need a powerful Luna beside you. I already chose my Luna. Kaelen, I chose you. The certainty in his voice made her chest ache. Because she wanted desperately to believe him. Kaelen gently pulled her closer. I'm serious, Selene. She searched his face carefully. Even if the elders oppose it? Yes. Even if the nobles hate me? I don't care. Even if the entire pack turns against us. Kaelen didn't hesitate. I would still choose you. Selene looked away quickly before he noticed the tears threatening her eyes. Nobody had ever chosen her before. Not completely. Not fearlessly. But Kaelen did. At least, she believed he did. Kaelen tilted her chin gently upward. What's wrong? Selene forced a small smile. I'm scared. Of what? That one day duty will matter more to you than I do. Kaelen's expression darkened instantly. That will never happen. You can't promise that. I can. Selene stared at him silently. Then Kaelen slowly pressed his forehead against hers. You are my mate, he whispered. Nothing matters more than you. The words wrapped around her heart so completely that she almost believed fate would finally be kind to her. Almost. Because neither of them noticed the elder standing silently in the shadows watching everything. The next morning, Selene woke to the sound of distant arguing outside the palace kitchen. She carried a basket of herbs toward the storage room quietly, hoping to avoid attention. But the moment she stepped into the corridor, the whispers started again. She was with the Alpha last night. I heard he skipped the council dinner because of her. A servant girl becoming Luna? Ridiculous. Selene lowered her eyes and kept walking. She was used to the whispers by now. Still, they hurt. Especially because part of her feared the nobles were right. The moment she entered the herb room, another voice stopped her. You should start listening to them. Selene froze, then slowly turned. Lady Isolde stood at the entrance in an elegant silver dress, watching her carefully. Selene immediately bowed respectfully. My lady. Isolde smiled softly. Beautiful. Controlled. Dangerous. I finally understand why Kaelen is distracted, Isolde said calmly. You're prettier than the rumors described. Selene remained silent. Isolde stepped closer slowly. You know he'll eventually choose the pack over you, right? Selene tightened her grip around the basket. That's between Kaelen and me. Isolde's smile widened slightly. No, it's between Kaelen and Moonvale. The room fell silent. Then Isolde leaned closer. The elders already chose me. Selene's chest tightened painfully. But Kaelen didn't. Isolde's eyes darkened briefly. No, she admitted quietly. Not yet. Then she smiled again. But he will. Before Selene could respond, footsteps echoed through the corridor. Kaelen appeared instantly. The second he saw Isolde standing near Selene, his expression hardened. What are you doing here? Isolde looked amused. Talking. Kaelen walked directly toward Selene. Not Isolde. Selene noticed immediately. So did Isolde. Kaelen gently took the basket from Selene's hands. You shouldn't carry heavy things. Isolde stared at him carefully. You're treating her like she's already Luna. Kaelen didn't even look at her. Maybe because she will be. The air inside the room instantly became tense. Selene's heart skipped painfully, but Isolde simply smiled. Then I suppose the council meeting tonight should be interesting. Kaelen's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Ask your elders. Then Isolde walked away calmly. The second she disappeared, Selene looked at Kaelen nervously. What council meeting? Kaelen sighed heavily. Nothing important. That's not true. He looked away briefly. Selene stepped closer. Kaelen. His jaw tightened. The elders want me to officially consider a political marriage. The words hit her harder than expected, even though part of her already knew. Selene forced herself to stay calm. With Isolde, Kaelen nodded once. Silence stretched painfully between them. Then Selene asked quietly, And what did you tell them? Kaelen stepped closer immediately. That I already chose my mate. Her chest tightened. But, there is no but. Selene searched his face carefully. For the first time, she saw exhaustion there. Pressure. Conflict. The realization scared her. Kaelen cupped her face gently. I meant what I said last night. Selene wanted to believe him. Desperately. But something inside her already sensed the future changing. That night, the council chamber exploded with arguments. The pack needs stability. The Northern Alliance depends on this marriage. A servant girl cannot stand beside the alpha. Kaelen slammed his hand against the table hard enough to crack the wood. Selene is my mate. One elder sneered coldly. She is weak. Kaelen's eyes darkened instantly. She is stronger than half the nobles in this territory. Another elder leaned forward. Love makes leaders foolish. Kaelen laughed bitterly. No. Fear makes leaders weak. The room fell silent briefly. Then the oldest elder spoke calmly. You are young, Alpha. One day you'll understand duty requires sacrifice. Kaelen's voice became dangerously quiet. If you ask me to sacrifice my mate for politics, the answer is no. But despite his words, doubt had already entered the room, and the elders knew it. Later that night, Kaelen found Selene sitting alone beside the lake. Moonlight reflected across the water while cold wind moved through the trees. The moment Selene saw his expression, she stood immediately. They're pressuring you again. Kaelen sighed quietly. They never stopped. Selene looked down. You should choose Isolde. Kaelen froze. What? She's powerful. Respected. The pack already accepts her. Kaelen walked toward her slowly. And what about what I want? Selene's voice cracked slightly. What if wanting me destroys your future? Kaelen grabbed her arms gently. Look at me. She hesitated, then slowly lifted her eyes toward him. I don't care what the elders think. But eventually you will. No, you don't know that. Kaelen stepped closer. Selene, I hear them every day, she whispered painfully. I hear what they call me behind my back. Kaelen's expression darkened instantly. They mean nothing, but they mean something to the pack. Silence stretched painfully. Then Selene whispered the words she feared most. One day they'll force you to choose. Kaelen immediately answered. I already did. Then he kissed her. Slowly. Desperately. Like he was trying to silence fate itself. Selene melted into him despite the fear inside her chest. Because no matter how hard she tried, she loved him too much to walk away. Days passed. Then weeks. And the pressure around Kaelen only grew worse. The elders constantly pushed Isolde toward him publicly. Banquets. Meetings. Ceremonies. Everywhere Kaelen turned, Isolde appeared beside him. And slowly, the pack began treating Selene differently. Servants stopped speaking when she entered rooms. Noble women laughed quietly when she passed. Even some warriors avoided looking at her directly now. Selene pretended not to notice. But Kaelen noticed everything. One afternoon, he found her alone in the garden again. She was staring silently at the moon lilies blooming beside the fountain. Kaelen walked behind her quietly. You've been avoiding me. Selene forced a smile. I've been busy. That's a lie. Her smile faded instantly. Kaelen stepped closer. What happened? Selene hesitated before answering quietly. The kitchen servants were discussing your future children with Isolde this morning. Rage flashed across Kaelen's face. I'll deal with them. No. Selene shook her head slowly. You can't fight the entire pack forever. Kaelen grabbed her hand gently. I'll fight anyone for you. Selene looked at him sadly. That's exactly what scares me. Before Kaelen could answer, loud footsteps echoed through the palace corridor. One of the palace guards rushed toward them nervously. Alpha. Kaelen frowned. What is it? The Luna Crest is missing. Silence. Kaelen's expression hardened instantly. What? The elders ordered a full search of the palace. Selene's chest tightened immediately. The Luna Crest. The sacred symbol passed only to the future Luna of Moonvale Pack. Kaelen cursed under his breath. When was it discovered missing? This morning. Kaelen immediately turned serious. No one leaves the palace. The guard nodded quickly before hurrying away. Selene suddenly felt uneasy. Very uneasy. Kaelen noticed immediately. What's wrong? She forced a weak smile. Nothing. But deep inside, something felt terribly wrong. And she had no idea her entire life was about to collapse. By sunset, the entire palace had descended into chaos. Guards searched every hallway. Servants whispered nervously in corners. The elders stood near the throne chamber, discussing the missing Luna Crest like it was a disaster capable of destroying the entire pack. Selene tried staying out of the way, but the tension inside the palace kept growing heavier. She had just stepped into her room when loud knocks suddenly echoed against the door. Before she could respond, the door burst open. 3 guards entered immediately. Behind them stood 2 elders. Selene frowned in confusion. "What's happening?" One elder spoke coldly. "We are searching every room inside the palace." Selene stepped aside instantly. "Then search." The guards began opening drawers and cabinets while the elders watched carefully. Selene crossed her arms tightly over her chest. Something about the entire situation felt wrong. Very wrong. One of the guards suddenly stopped near her wardrobe. "Elder." Selene turned instantly. The guard slowly reached into the bottom compartment, then pulled something out. The sacred moon veil Luna Crest. The room went silent. Selene's face lost all color. "No." The elder's expression immediately darkened. So it was true. Selene stared at the crest in horror. "No," she whispered. "I didn't take it." Another elder laughed bitterly. "You expect us to believe the sacred Luna Crest somehow placed itself inside your room?" Selene stepped back immediately. "I swear I've never seen that before." The first elder turned toward the guards. "Bring her to the throne hall." Selene's breathing became uneven. "You can't seriously think I stole it." The elder's eyes hardened. "You wanted power." "No. You wanted to become Luna." Selene stared at them in disbelief. "I'm Kaelin's mate. And clearly that wasn't enough for you." Selene's chest tightened painfully. Because suddenly, she understood. This wasn't an accident. Someone wanted this. The throne hall was already crowded when the guards dragged Selene inside. Whispers exploded instantly through the room. She stole the Luna Crest? I knew she wanted power. A servant girl becoming Luna? She planned this. Selene's heart pounded violently as she searched the crowd desperately. Then she saw Kaelen. The moment his eyes landed on the Luna Crest in the guard's hands, his expression darkened. Selene immediately rushed toward him. "Kaelen, listen to me. Was it found in her room?" One elder interrupted loudly. The guard nodded. "Yes." Whispers exploded louder. Selene grabbed Kaelin's arm desperately. "I didn't steal it." Kaelen stared at her silently, and that silence terrified her. "You believe me, don't you?" she whispered. Kaelen looked at the crest again, then back at her. Confusion, disappointment, anger, doubt. Every emotion clashed inside his eyes. Selene's voice trembled. "Kaelen." One elder stepped forward dramatically. "The sacred Luna Crest is only touched by the future Luna of Moonvale Pack." Another elder added coldly. "She wanted to force herself into the role." "That's not true." Selene shouted instantly. The room fell silent. Selene looked directly at Kaelen. "You know me better than this." Kaelen clenched his jaw tightly. "Then explain why it was in your room." "I don't know." Convenient answer. Selene stared at him in shock. The accusation in his voice shattered something inside her chest. "I would never steal from you." One elder scoffed loudly. "She manipulated the alpha from the beginning." Another nodded. "She knew he was weak for her." Kaelin's wolf growled angrily beneath his skin, but not because of Selene, because deep inside himself, part of him feared the elders might be right, and that fear poisoned everything. Selene noticed the doubt spreading across his face. Her breathing became uneven. "No." Kaelen looked away briefly. That tiny movement broke her heart instantly, because she realized he didn't fully trust her anymore. "Kaelen," she whispered painfully. "Please." The oldest elder stepped forward slowly. A true Luna would never disgrace this pack. Selene turned toward him furiously. "I did nothing wrong." "Then why was the crest hidden among your belongings?" "I don't know." The elder laughed coldly. "Perhaps because you feared the alpha choosing Lady Isolde instead." Selene froze. "Isolde?" Slowly, Selene turned toward the crowd. And there she stood. Beautiful, calm, silent, watching everything unfold. Selene's stomach twisted painfully, because Isolde looked neither surprised nor confused. She looked prepared. Kaelen stepped closer to Selene slowly. "Tell me the truth." Tears filled Selene's eyes instantly. "I am telling you the truth." Kaelin's voice lowered dangerously. "Then tell me why the crest was hidden in your room." Selene shook her head desperately. "I don't know." The elders continued pressing him. "She wanted power. She wanted the Luna title. She manipulated the alpha's emotions." Each word slowly pushed Kaelen further away from her. Selene could see it happening, and it terrified her. Finally, Kaelen spoke quietly. You betrayed me. Selene stared at him like he had struck her. No. Kaelen's eyes hardened. I defended you against this entire pack. Tears rolled down Selene's cheeks instantly. Because I'm innocent. But Kaelen's pride was already bleeding. The entire pack watched him. The elders watched him. And doubt consumed him completely. Then Kaelen said the words that destroyed her. I cannot marry a thief like you. The room went silent. Selene's lips parted slightly. Pain crashed through her chest so violently she almost collapsed. No, she whispered. Kaelen forced himself to continue despite the way his wolf screamed inside him. I reject you as my mate. The bond shattered instantly. Selene gasped sharply as pain ripped through her entire body. A broken cry escaped her lips. The entire hall watched her collapse to her knees. Kaelen's chest tightened painfully. Because despite everything, seeing her in pain nearly destroyed him too. Selene looked up at him through tears. You know I didn't do this, she whispered brokenly. Kaelen looked away, because he couldn't bear seeing the betrayal in her eyes. The elders immediately ordered the guards forward. Remove her from the palace. Selene slowly stood on trembling legs. Nobody helped her. Nobody defended her. Not even Kaelen. As the guards escorted her through the crowd, whispers followed her everywhere. Pathetic. She almost became Luna. She should be grateful the Alpha spared her. Selene felt numb. Completely numb. By the time she reached the palace gates, rain had already begun falling heavily across Moonvale territory. One guard quietly handed her a small bag of belongings. Then the gates closed behind her. Just like that. She was alone. Hours later, Kaelen sat silently inside his chamber, staring at the Luna Crest lying on the table before him. Something felt wrong. Terribly wrong. His wolf hadn't stopped raging since the rejection. Every instinct inside him screamed that Selene was innocent. But pride refused to let him admit it. A soft knock echoed against the door. Kaelen didn't respond. The door slowly opened anyway. Selene stepped inside. Rain soaked her completely. Kaelen immediately stood. What are you doing here? Selene looked exhausted. Broken. But she still walked toward him slowly. I needed to see you one last time. Kaelen's jaw tightened painfully. You shouldn't be here. Selene ignored the warning. Instead, she stopped directly in front of him. You know me better than anyone. Kaelen looked away immediately. Selene. No. Tears rolled down her face. You know I would never steal from you. Kaelen's chest tightened violently. Because part of him still believed her. But the humiliation, the pressure, the doubt, everything poisoned his judgment. Selene grabbed his hand desperately. Please believe me. Kaelen slowly pulled his hand away. And that moment destroyed her completely. His voice came out cold. I never should have chosen you. Selene froze. The pain on her face nearly shattered him. But it was too late now. Too many people witnessed the rejection. Too many lines had been crossed. Selene slowly stepped backward. For a moment, she looked at him like she no longer recognized him. Then she whispered softly, one day you'll regret this. Kaelen said nothing, because deep inside himself, he already did. Selene turned and walked out of his chamber. And this time, she never looked back. The rain did not stop for 3 days after Selene left Moonvale Pack. By the 4th night, she had almost no money left and nowhere safe to sleep. She sat alone beneath the broken roof of an abandoned hunting cabin while cold winds slipped through the cracks in the walls. Her entire body trembled from exhaustion, but the pain inside her chest hurt worse than the cold. Kaelen's words kept replaying in her mind. I never should have chosen you. Selene pressed both hands against her face as tears slipped silently through her fingers. She had loved him with everything she had, and he destroyed her without even trusting her enough to listen. A sudden wave of nausea twisted through her stomach. Selene immediately leaned forward. Pain spread through her body again. For a second, fear crossed her face. Something felt different. Wrong. The next morning, Selene forced herself toward a small village near the southern border. Her legs nearly gave out twice during the journey. By the time she reached the healer's home, she looked ready to collapse. The older woman opened the door slowly. Then her eyes widened. Moon Goddess. Selene barely managed to speak. I need help. Hours later, Selene sat silently on the edge of the bed while the healer mixed herbs nearby. The older woman kept glancing toward her nervously. Finally, Selene whispered, What is it? The healer hesitated, then sighed heavily. You're pregnant. Silence filled the room instantly. Selene stared at her. No. The healer nodded slowly. The child is healthy for now. Selene laughed weakly. Then again. Then suddenly tears filled her eyes. No. Her breathing became uneven. This can't be happening. The healer sat beside her carefully. You should rest. Selene shook her head desperately. No, this can't. Kaelin's face flashed through her mind instantly. The rejection, the humiliation, the pain, and now this. A child. His child. Selene suddenly broke down completely. The healer quietly held her while she cried. Not delicate tears. Broken tears. The kind pulled from a shattered heart. I have nothing, Selene whispered painfully. I can't do this alone. The healer rubbed her back gently. You're stronger than you think. Selene laughed bitterly through tears. No, I was strong when I had him. That sentence hurt even her to say aloud. Because despite everything, part of her still loved Kaelen. Weeks passed slowly. Selene worked whenever she could, cleaning homes, sorting herbs, cooking for travelers, anything to survive. But pregnancy made everything harder, especially because her wolf had grown weaker since the rejection. Some nights, she woke shaking violently from cold and exhaustion. Other nights, she cried silently while holding her stomach. Not because she regretted the child, never that, but because she feared bringing the baby into a world where even its father had rejected them. One evening, Selene sat outside the healer's cottage watching snow fall softly across the village. Her hand rested against her stomach unconsciously. Then suddenly, a kick. Selene froze. The baby moved again. A small shaky laugh escaped her lips. Then tears filled her eyes instantly afterward. Hey, she whispered softly. Another tiny kick answered her. Selene pressed her trembling hand more firmly against her stomach. I'm here. Her voice cracked immediately. I'm trying. For the first time since leaving Moonvale. Something inside her softened. Not happiness, but love. Protective, fierce, overwhelming. And in that moment, Selene made herself a promise. Kaelen would never hurt this child the way he hurt her. Back in Moonvale Palace, Kaelen stood alone on the training grounds while warriors avoided looking directly at him. His temper had become unbearable during the last several weeks. 3 broken swords already lay scattered across the ground. Ronan approached cautiously. You're going to terrify the entire pack at this rate. Kaelen ignored him and swung again. The wooden target shattered instantly. Ronan sighed heavily. You haven't slept again. I'm fine. That's a lie. Kaelen finally stopped moving. His breathing remained uneven. His wolf had become impossible to control since rejecting Selene. Nothing felt right anymore. Food tasted empty. Sleep barely came. And every room inside the palace reminded him of her. Ronan studied him carefully. You miss her. Kaelin's jaw tightened immediately. She betrayed me. Even saying the words felt wrong now. Because deep inside himself, he no longer fully believed them. Ronan crossed his arms slowly. Then, why does your wolf react like you ripped out part of your own soul? Kaelen looked away. Because he had no answer. That same night, the elders gathered inside the council chamber with Isolde seated beside them. One elder smiled carefully. Now that Selene is gone, the pack expects an official engagement announcement. Kaelen remained silent. Another elder continued. Lady Isolde's family already secured the Northern Alliance. Still silence. Finally, Isolde spoke softly. You're unhappy. Kaelen looked toward her coldly. What gave that away? The room fell silent instantly. Isolde inhaled slowly. I know you cared about her. Kaelen laughed bitterly. Cared? His wolf nearly growled at the word. Because care wasn't the problem. Love was. And that terrified him. One elder interrupted quickly. The important thing is the pack's future. Kaelen suddenly slammed his hand against the table hard enough to crack it. The important thing, he growled, is that none of you speak her name again. Silence consumed the chamber. Even the elders looked startled, because the anger in Kaelen's voice sounded dangerously personal. Isolde watched him carefully, then quietly asked, if she returned tomorrow, would you still choose me? Kaelen froze. The entire room waited for his answer, but he couldn't give one, because for the first time, he wasn't sure anymore. Months passed. Winter deepened. One night, Selene collapsed while carrying water back from the village well. The bucket shattered against the snow. Pain tore violently through her stomach. Selene cried out softly before falling to her knees. The healer rushed outside immediately. Selene. Selene struggled to breathe. The healer's expression darkened instantly. She's weakening too fast. Selene shook her head weakly. No hospitals, no moon veil. The healer looked heartbroken. If you continue like this, you may lose the child. Fear spread through Selene instantly. The healer knelt beside her carefully. The baby carries powerful alpha blood. Your wolf cannot support the pregnancy alone anymore. Selene's eyes filled with panic. What do I do? The healer hesitated, then finally whispered, You need the father's territory. Selene immediately looked away. No, Selene, no. You and the child could die. Tears filled Selene's eyes instantly. Then maybe fate should finish what Kaelen started. The healer grabbed her shoulders firmly. Don't say that. Selene broke down crying again. Because she was tired. So unbelievably tired. And for the first time since leaving Moonvale, she became truly afraid. Not for herself, for the baby. Days later, Selene stood outside the healer's cottage holding the small bag containing everything she owned. The healer looked at her sadly. You're really going back? Selene closed her eyes briefly. I'm not going back for him. Then why? Selene placed a trembling hand against her stomach. For my child, and somewhere far away inside Moonvale Palace. Kaelen suddenly looked up from his desk as his wolf roared violently inside him, like it already sensed she was coming back. Snow covered the roads leading toward Moonvale territory by the time Selene finally reached the outer gates. Every step hurt. Her body felt heavier than ever, and the child inside her had grown restless during the journey. Twice she almost turned back. Not because of pride anymore. Because fear consumed her. Fear of seeing Kaelen again. Fear of remembering the man who once promised her forever before destroying her publicly. But every time she thought about leaving, the healer's warning echoed inside her mind. You and the child may not survive without the pact bond. So Selene forced herself forward. Even if returning to Moonvale felt like walking back into the place where her heart died. The guards noticed her immediately. Shock spread across both their faces. Selene. She stopped several feet away from the gate, exhausted. One guard stared at her stomach in disbelief. The other looked toward the palace nervously. You came back. Selene swallowed painfully. I need to see the healer. The guards exchanged uncertain glances. Neither moved. Then one finally whispered, Does the alpha know? Selene's eyes darkened instantly. No. The guard hesitated. After everything that happened, coming back here is dangerous. Selene laughed weakly. So is dying. Silence followed immediately. The guards slowly opened the gates. And the moment Selene stepped back into Moonvale territory, her wolf reacted instantly. Warmth spread through her chest for the first time in months. The child calmed immediately inside her stomach. Tears almost filled Selene's eyes from relief alone. The healer was right. The baby needed this territory. Needed Kaelen's bloodline. Even after everything. As she walked through the village, whispers spread rapidly. Selene came back. She looks exhausted. She's really carrying the alpha's child. Does Lady Isolde know? Selene kept her head down. Every corner of Moonvale carried painful memories. The training grounds where Kaelen once taught her how to fight. The market where he secretly bought her moon lilies because she loved them. The lake where he once promised she would become his Luna. Promises. All broken now. Suddenly, familiar footsteps stopped behind her. Selene. She froze instantly. Ronan. Kaelen's beta approached slowly, disbelief written across his face. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ronan looked at her stomach. Shock spread across his features immediately. Moon goddess. Selene looked away. Ronan lowered his voice carefully. The child is his. It wasn't a question. Selene gave a small nod. Ronan cursed softly under his breath. Does Kaelen know? No. And you came back anyway? I didn't come back for him. Ronan studied her carefully. She looked pale. Exhausted. Like she had spent months barely surviving. Guilt hit him immediately. Because unlike Kaelen, Ronan never fully believed Selene stole the Luna Crest. Before he could speak again, Selene suddenly swayed slightly. Ronan immediately caught her arm. Selene. I'm fine. You're lying. Another sharp pain twisted through her stomach. Selene inhaled sharply. Ronan's expression darkened instantly. What's happening? My wolf, she whispered weakly. It's getting weaker. Fear crossed Ronan's face immediately. Come with me. No. That wasn't a request. Selene pulled her arm away weakly. If Kaelen sees me, he needs to see you. Selene laughed bitterly. No, he doesn't. Before Ronan could answer, movement suddenly erupted across the courtyard ahead. Pack members immediately stepped aside. Then Kaelen appeared. The moment Selene saw him again, her chest tightened painfully. He looked exactly the same. Tall, powerful, untouchable, but colder now. Much colder. Kaelen stopped walking the second he saw her. His wolf exploded inside him instantly. Selene. For months, he had tried burying every memory of her. Every scent, every touch, every promise. And yet the second she appeared before him again, every feeling returned at once. Then his eyes dropped to her stomach, and the world stopped. Fear entered his face instantly. The child. It was real. Selene instinctively stepped backward. Kaelen immediately noticed. That hurt more than he expected, because she used to run toward him. Now she looked afraid to even stand near him. Kaelen slowly walked closer. Ronan quietly stepped aside. The courtyard fell silent around them. Neither spoke at first. Then Kaelen's voice finally came out rough. You're really pregnant. Selene forced herself to stay calm. You already know the answer. Kaelen stared at her stomach again. His wolf reacted violently. Protective, possessive, terrified. How long? He asked quietly. Selene looked away. Long enough. Kaelen clenched his jaw. You should have told me. Selene laughed bitterly. You rejected me before the entire pack. The words hit him immediately. Pain flashed across Kaelen's face. Selene noticed. But it changed nothing. Kaelen stepped closer again. You disappeared. What did you expect me to do? She whispered painfully. Stay here after what happened? Kaelen had no answer. Because deep inside himself, he asked himself the same question every night. Another sharp pain suddenly hit Selene. She grabbed her stomach instantly. Kaelen moved without thinking. His hands caught her before she fell. The moment he touched her again after months apart, both of them froze. The bond reacted instantly. Selene's breathing became uneven. Kaelen's wolf nearly lost control completely. And then, the baby kicked. Hard. Selene gasped softly. Kaelen felt it through his hand. His eyes widened instantly. For a second, everything else disappeared. The courtyard, the pack, the pain. Nothing existed except the child moving beneath his palm. His child. Kaelen slowly looked up at Selene. Emotion filled his eyes so suddenly it almost frightened her. Then Selene quickly stepped away from him. The moment broke immediately. Kaelen's chest tightened painfully. Selene lowered her eyes. I need the healer. Kaelen immediately nodded. I'll take you. No. The answer came too quickly, too sharply. Kaelen froze. Selene inhaled slowly. I don't need your help. You can barely stand. I survived this long without you. That line cut deeper than she realized. Kaelen stared at her silently. Because she was right. She survived alone while he stayed inside the palace, convincing himself he made the correct choice. Ronan stepped forward carefully. She needs help now, Kaelen. Kaelen immediately made his decision. She's staying in the palace. Selene's eyes widened. No. You and the baby aren't safe alone anymore. You don't get to decide what happens to us. Kaelen's expression darkened instantly at the word us. Not me. Us. Meaning the child and her. Separate from him. The realization hurt more than he expected. Kaelen lowered his voice carefully. You're carrying my child. Selene looked directly into his eyes. And whose fault is it that I had to carry this child alone? Silence crushed the courtyard immediately. Even the guards looked uncomfortable. Because nobody had ever spoken to the alpha like that before. But Kaelen didn't get angry. Because every word she said was true. And somehow, that was worse. Kaelen stood outside the healer chamber long after Selene fell asleep. He could still hear her words repeating inside his head. And whose fault is it that I had to carry this child alone? The answer haunted him because there was only one. Him. Ronan leaned against the hallway wall quietly. You should rest. Kaelen laughed bitterly. I haven't rested in months. Ronan studied him carefully. You still love her. Kaelen didn't answer immediately. Because denying it felt pointless now. Every instinct inside him reacted violently whenever Selene was near. The pain. The protectiveness. The guilt. None of it resembled hatred. Finally, Kaelen spoke quietly. I never stopped. Ronan sighed heavily. Then why did you reject her? Kaelen looked away. The crest was found in her room. And you truly believed she stole it? Silence. That silence answered everything. Ronan shook his head slowly. You wanted to believe it. Kaelen's jaw tightened instantly. Careful. No. Ronan replied firmly. You were afraid. Kaelen glared at him. Afraid of what? That loving her would cost you the pack. The words hit too close. Kaelen looked away again. Because deep down, Ronan was right. He loved Selene enough to choose her, but not enough to stand against everyone when it mattered most. And now he might lose her forever because of it. Inside the healer chamber, Selene slowly opened her eyes. For a moment, confusion crossed her face. Then memory crashed into her instantly. Moonveil. Kaelen. The baby. Pain twisted through her chest immediately. She tried sitting up slowly, then froze when she noticed someone sleeping beside the bed. Kaelen. Selene stared at him silently. Even exhausted, he still looked powerful. But for the first time, he also looked broken. Dark circles shadowed beneath his eyes. His expression remained tense even in sleep. Like peace no longer came easily to him. Selene looked away quickly before emotions overwhelmed her. But movement from the bed woke Kaelen instantly. The moment he saw her awake, he stood immediately. How are you feeling? Selene forced herself to stay distant. Fine. That's not what the healer said. I didn't ask what the healer said. Kaelen inhaled slowly. She said your wolf weakened from exhaustion and stress. Selene looked away. Silence stretched between them painfully. Then Kaelen asked quietly, why didn't you tell me about the baby? Selene laughed bitterly. The sound hurt him immediately. Would it have mattered? Yes. No, she whispered. You already made your choice. Kaelen stepped closer. I didn't know. Selene's eyes flashed with pain. You didn't trust me enough to know. That sentence shattered him. Because she was right again. Kaelen looked down briefly. I thought you betrayed me. Selene stared at him in disbelief. And after everything we shared, you believed I would steal from you? Kaelen had no answer. Because even now, he hated himself for it. The chamber door suddenly opened. Isolde entered. The tension inside the room exploded instantly. Selene immediately looked away. Kaelen's expression hardened. What are you doing here? Isolde smiled coldly. I came to see the woman who destroyed my wedding. Selene flinched slightly. Kaelen noticed immediately. Leave. Isolde ignored him completely. Instead, she looked directly at Selene. You certainly caused enough drama. Selene forced herself to remain calm. I didn't come here for your wedding. No, Isolde replied softly. You came because you needed the alpha after all. Kaelen's patience snapped instantly. That's enough. Isolde turned toward him sharply. You abandoned me at the altar because of her. Kaelen's voice became dangerously cold. And right now my child matters more. The room fell silent. Pain flashed across Isolde's face. Then anger replaced it immediately. So it's true, she whispered. You still love her. Kaelen didn't answer. That silence told Isolde everything. Selene looked away painfully. Because hearing those words now only hurt more. Too much damage already existed between them. Isolde stepped closer to Kaelen. You humiliated me before the entire pack. Kaelen's eyes darkened. And you're making this about yourself while she's barely surviving? Isolde laughed bitterly. She wasn't barely surviving when she walked into our ceremony carrying your child. Selene suddenly spoke for the first time. I didn't come back to take him from you. Isolde turned toward her immediately. Then why return? Selene slowly placed a trembling hand against her stomach. For my baby. The honesty in her voice silenced the room. Because everyone could hear it. Everything Selene did now revolved around protecting the child. Not revenge. Not Kaelen. The child. For a brief moment, even Isolde looked shaken by that. Then she quickly hardened again. You should have stayed gone. Kaelen stepped between them immediately. Leave. Now. Isolde stared at him for several long seconds before finally turning away. But before leaving, she looked directly at Selene. This pack will never fully accept you. Then she walked out. Silence followed instantly. Kaelen cursed quietly under his breath. Selene closed her eyes tiredly. You should have married her. Kaelen immediately looked toward her. Don't say that. Why not? Selene whispered painfully. That's what everyone wanted. I didn't. Selene finally looked at him again. Then quietly asked the question haunting her for months. Then why did you reject me? Kaelen froze. Because suddenly, he wasn't sure anymore. Yes, he believed the accusation. But beneath that, there had also been fear. Fear of disappointing the pack. Fear of losing control. Fear of choosing love over duty. And now all of it felt pathetic. Kaelen sat beside the bed slowly. I thought. He began quietly before stopping. Selene waited silently. Kaelen finally forced himself to continue. I thought you wanted the Luna title more than me. The pain on Selene's face was immediate. I wanted you, she whispered. That sentence nearly broke him. Selene laughed weakly through tears. You really think I cared about power? Kaelen looked away, because now, he couldn't understand how he ever believed it. Selene's voice shook harder. I loved you when you had nothing but responsibilities crushing you every day. Kaelen clenched his fists tightly. I know. No, Selene whispered painfully. You don't. The room fell silent again. Then Selene slowly asked, if the crest was never found in my room, would you still have chosen me? Kaelen answered immediately, yes. Selene looked at him for several long seconds, then quietly whispered, that's what hurts the most. Kaelen's chest tightened painfully, because he finally understood. The rejection itself wasn't what destroyed her completely. It was the fact that he didn't trust her enough to fight for her. Later that night, Kaelen walked through the palace corridors unable to sleep again. Every conversation with Selene only deepened the guilt consuming him. He reached the council wing silently, then stopped. Voices echoed from inside the elder chamber. At least the Alpha finally understands duty. Another elder laughed quietly. He never would have married Isolde if we hadn't acted. Kaelen frowned slightly. Then another voice said, planting the Luna Crest was the only way to separate them. Kaelen froze instantly. Silence. Complete silence. Inside the chamber, another elder chuckled. The fool rejected her exactly as we expected. Kaelen's breathing stopped. His entire body went cold. No, no. The voices continued inside. That servant girl almost ruined everything. Thankfully, the Alpha was easier to manipulate than expected. Kaelen staggered backward slightly. His mind replayed every moment instantly. Selene crying, begging him, you know I would never steal from you. And he still rejected her. Rage exploded inside him so violently the hallway windows cracked. The elders inside suddenly fell silent. Then the chamber doors burst open. Kaelen entered slowly, terrifyingly calm. Every elder immediately went pale, because the look in the Alpha's eyes promised destruction. The entire elder chamber fell silent the moment Kaelen entered. His Alpha aura filled the room so violently that several candles extinguished instantly. One elder slowly stood from his chair. Alpha, what did you just say? Kaelen's voice came out dangerously quiet. No one answered. That terrified him even more. Kaelen stepped forward slowly. I asked, he growled. What did you just say? The oldest elder inhaled carefully. You misunderstood the conversation. Kaelen laughed. A cold, terrifying sound. Misunderstood. His wolf pushed violently against his control. Rage. Pure rage. Because suddenly every memory replayed inside his head. Selene crying before him. Selene begging him to trust her. Selene standing alone while the entire pack judged her. And he failed her. One elder tried speaking carefully. The pack needed stability. Kaelen snapped instantly. The Luna Crest. Silence. Kaelen's eyes darkened further. You planted it in her room. Another elder stood quickly. We did what was necessary for Moonvale. Kaelen slammed his fist against the stone table hard enough to split it in half. The entire chamber shook violently. She was innocent. Nobody answered, because now there was nothing left to deny. Kaelen staggered backward slightly. For the first time in years, the Alpha looked shattered. She begged me to believe her, he whispered hoarsely. The memory nearly destroyed him. You know I would never steal from you. And he still rejected her. One elder stepped forward desperately. You were meant to marry nobility, not a servant girl. Kaelen's head snapped toward him instantly. Do not call her that. His voice shook the chamber walls. Fear spread through every elder immediately. Kaelen's breathing became uneven. You destroyed my mate. One elder tried defending himself again. We protected the future of Moonvale. Kaelen laughed bitterly. No, he whispered painfully. You destroyed it. Because suddenly he understood the truth. The pack wasn't falling apart because of Selene. It was falling apart because he betrayed the one person who truly loved him. Kaelen turned away briefly, then quietly asked, did Isolde know? Silence answered him again. That silence felt like another knife through his chest. Kaelen closed his eyes briefly. Then rage exploded completely. The chamber doors burst open violently from the force of his wolf energy. You manipulated me. One elder shouted desperately. We did it for the pack. Kaelen turned back slowly. And I would burn this entire pack before letting anyone hurt her again. Fear spread across every face in the room. Because for the first time, they realized the Alpha no longer cared about politics. Only Selene. Kaelen stormed out of the chamber immediately. The entire palace trembled from the force of his fury. Servants quickly moved out of his way. Warriors lowered their heads instantly. Nobody had ever seen the Alpha lose control like this before. Kaelen headed directly toward the Grand Hall. The same hall where he rejected Selene. The same hall where he destroyed her life. Pack members immediately gathered nervously when they heard the Alpha's roar echo through the palace. Isolde entered moments later. The second she saw Kaelen's face, her expression changed. What happened? Kaelen stared at her coldly. You knew? Isolde froze. Kaelen stepped closer slowly. You knew they framed her. Isolde inhaled sharply. It wasn't supposed to go that far. Pain flashed across Kaelen's face instantly. She was innocent. Isolde looked away briefly. The elders believed Moonveil needed a stronger Luna. And what did you believe? Silence. Kaelen laughed bitterly. That's what I thought. Isolde stepped toward him quickly. You still chose to reject her. The words hit him like a blade. Because she was right. The elders manipulated him. But the final choice still belonged to him. And he chose wrong. Kaelen looked around the hall slowly. Pack members gathered everywhere now. Watching, whispering, judging. The exact same way they judged Selene months ago. Kaelen's voice suddenly thundered through the palace. Selene was innocent. Silence crushed the hall instantly. Shock spread across every face. One elder rushed forward desperately. Alpha! Enough! The roar shook the palace walls. Kaelen pointed toward the elders with pure fury burning in his eyes. They planted the Luna Crest in her room. Whispers exploded immediately. They lied to me. More shocked murmurs spread through the crowd. And I rejected my mate because I was too blind to see the truth. The confession stunned everyone. Even the warriors looked shaken. Kaelen slowly turned toward Isolde. This wedding is over. Pain flashed across Isolde's face instantly. You're humiliating me. Kaelen's expression hardened. Now you know how Selene felt. Those words silenced her completely. Kaelen looked around the hall one final time, then said quietly, None of you deserved her. Before anyone could respond, Kaelen turned and walked away. Because suddenly only one thing mattered. Finding Selene. Meanwhile, inside the healer chamber, Selene sat beside the window quietly while holding her stomach. The baby moved restlessly again. Selene smiled weakly despite everything. At least one of us still has energy. A soft knock interrupted her. Ronan entered carefully. The moment Selene saw his expression, her chest tightened. What happened? Ronan hesitated briefly, then quietly answered. Kaelen knows the truth. Selene froze instantly. Silence filled the room. What truth? Ronan stepped closer slowly. The elders planted the Luna Crest. Selene stared at him in disbelief. For several seconds, she couldn't breathe. Then tears slowly filled her eyes. Not relief. Pain. Pure pain. Because the truth changed nothing. Kaelen still chose not to trust her. Ronan watched her carefully. He's destroying the palace right now. Selene laughed weakly through tears. That sounds like him. He canceled the wedding. Selene closed her eyes painfully. Too late. Ronan stepped closer. He loves you. Selene finally looked at him. And when exactly was I supposed to feel loved? She whispered. Ronan had no answer. Because she was right. The chamber door suddenly burst open. Kaelen entered breathlessly. The second his eyes landed on Selene, emotion crashed across his face. Pain, guilt, regret, love. So much love it almost hurt to look at. Selene immediately looked away. Kaelen stepped toward her slowly. Selene. Her voice stopped him instantly. Don't. Kaelen's chest tightened painfully. I know the truth now. Selene laughed bitterly. Congratulations. Selene. You finally believed me after destroying my life. Every word cut deeper. Kaelen stepped closer anyway. I was wrong. Selene looked at him again. Tears filled her eyes instantly. You looked me in the eyes while I begged you to trust me. Kaelen's breathing became uneven. Because he remembered every second of it. I know. No. Selene whispered painfully. You don't. The baby suddenly kicked hard again. Selene winced immediately. Kaelen moved instinctively. Are you all right? Selene looked exhausted. Tired. Fear gripped Kaelen instantly. The healer entered quickly after hearing the commotion. Then her expression darkened immediately. The stress is triggering early labor. Kaelen's face lost color. What? Selene inhaled sharply as pain twisted violently through her stomach. Another contraction hit harder this time. Kaelen caught her before she could fall. Fear consumed him completely, because suddenly, he realized he might lose her before ever fixing what he destroyed. Hours passed inside the healer chamber while the storm outside battered Moonvale Palace. Selene screamed again as another wave of pain tore through her body. Kaelen refused to leave her side once. Not once. He held her hand through every contraction while guilt slowly destroyed him from the inside out. The healer moved quickly around the room. "The baby is early," she warned. "Selene's wolf is too weak." Fear gripped Kaelen harder with every passing second. Selene's breathing shook violently. "I can't," she whispered weakly. Kaelen immediately grabbed her face gently. "Yes, you can." Tears filled Selene's eyes instantly. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. And suddenly, all the anger between them felt smaller than the fear of losing everything. Kaelen's voice broke quietly. "I'm sorry." Selene closed her eyes painfully. "I know." "No," Kaelen whispered. "You don't." His hand trembled against hers. "I loved you from the beginning, Selene. I still do." Tears slipped down her cheeks silently. Kaelen lowered his forehead against her hand. "Rejecting you was the greatest mistake of my life." Another painful cry escaped Selene before she could answer. Hours later, the sound of a baby crying finally filled the room. Relief crashed through Kaelen so hard his knees almost gave out. The healer smiled weakly while placing the child carefully beside Selene. "It's a boy." Selene stared down at the baby with tears filling her eyes. Kaelen looked completely shattered beside her, because suddenly nothing else mattered anymore. Not the elders, not the pack, not politics, only them. For the first time in months, Selene smiled softly. Kaelen's chest tightened painfully at the sight, because he realized how badly he missed her smile. Days later, Selene quietly stood near the palace gates holding the baby carefully against her chest. The early morning wind moved softly through her hair. She looked calmer now. Not healed, but calmer. Then footsteps stopped behind her. "Kaelen." He stared at the small bag beside her feet. Fear immediately crossed his face. "You're leaving?" Selene looked down at the baby quietly. "Yes." Kaelen stepped closer desperately. "Selene, please." She closed her eyes briefly. "I can't stay here. I'll fix this." "You can't." "I can try." Selene finally turned toward him. Tears filled Kaelen's eyes instantly, because she looked at him without hatred. And somehow that hurt more. Only sadness remained now. Kaelen's voice cracked. "Let me love you properly this time." Selene smiled weakly through her heartbreak. "You only loved me after losing me." The words shattered him completely. Kaelen stepped closer again. "Please don't take my family away." Selene looked down at the baby sleeping peacefully in her arms. Then back at Kaelen. "Our child will know his father," she whispered softly. "But I will never be yours again." Kaelen broke. Completely. Because deep inside himself, he knew he deserved it. Selene slowly walked past him. Kaelen didn't stop her this time, because forcing her to stay would only hurt her more. So he stood there helplessly while the woman he loved walked away, carrying the life they created together. And for the first time in his life, Alpha Kaelen truly understood regret. The day he rejected his mate was the day he lost everything. If you enjoyed this story, comment below and tell me honestly, should Selene ever forgive Kaelen after everything he did? And if you love emotional alpha stories filled with betrayal, regret, revenge, and powerful endings like this one, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story.